I mean, think about all the new noise, right? And all the new, let's just say noise and even static that exists out there with all the different things that are happening, the way things are marketed now, how fast the innovation is happening. I mean, at every single level. I mean, so gear, clothing, we're not even talking about the firearms piece. Like,
no, that's important.
This whole thing that's going on right now with holsters and lights, with handheld lights, it's like, it's hard to keep up with.
Yeah, no, very much so. I mean, you can almost say that, like, I've been kind of posting some stuff on social media that's like picking people's brains with like questions like, how long do you think small gun shops will be in existence? Or are they going to get blockbustered? And the reason why I say that is because they're never the cheapest and they're never the most informed. Right?
It's a very good point.
So I love going into a small gun store. Like, I love it, dude. It's an experience, but I also hate it at the same time because majority of them, people aren't informed. And like you said, technology is moving quickly. Now that the 2A world's actually like catching up with like business practices, and there's actual people who are driving the market, like they're being competitive with innovation. Yeah, now things are pretty aggressive. So like if you go into somewhere and somebody's selling you a P226 Scorpion, they're like, this is the hottest shit I've ever shot. Okay, maybe that's a really good gun, but it's also a little dated. I think that's fair to say, right? And the Glock is dated, but it's also like people have done things to modify and update it, right? And people aren't really doing that with something like a SIG. It's not a bad gun. I'm not shitting on it. I'm just saying like that tells where you're from in terms of like time periods, how fast, like you can get lost really quick in terms of technology now. Like I think somebody was joking around about like EOTech making night vision now, when like 2 years ago that wasn't even a thought. Like anybody would have thought that. Like everybody knows EOTech from movies and video games and whatever, and it's like one of the best optics. But now they're making night vision like a couple years later. Like that tells you how fast things move.
It's very fast.
Yeah. So there's like a lot of ways to spend money for no reason.
I think there's questions to be asked about how is it moving that fast? You know, where is that money coming from to push the product development, the product testing, the product manufacturing, the distribution? Because every time you talk about those, and then the marketing, and then obviously the sales, you mentioned one place would be maybe a small gun shop. Obviously there's the online sales, there's the larger, bigger stores, Bass Pro, and, you know, Cabela's, those kind of, that might just be one example. That's because we have those here. One of the last standing outdoors type of sporting goods stores in California. But there's the private shops, as you mentioned. Every time you go through one of those pieces of the process, there are hands involved. There's a lot of money involved. And because there's money involved in everything, at the end, the end user ends up paying the price for that. And what's happened maybe along the way with regard to materials? Again, the testing process, who tested it, what is the legitimacy of the product that's being sold to you, quality control, super important. And then again, we start to get into the marketing, like what's being said. That's always going to be a thing. Like how much honesty, truthfulness, how the numbers maybe have been fudged. I mean, we saw that with the flashlight company lately, that handheld light company lately, that made some claims, and then there was some let's just say independent studies done, and the claims on those lights coming from the manufacturer were a little bit different than what they were actually getting in the field, which
blew me away,
which raised some questions. Why?
It's like, why are you even doing that when like clearly you have a high performing light? No one's doubting that. So why did you like fuck with the numbers? Also, I think Jerry did tell me that like Surefire has lower numbers than everybody, but they base their numbers off like the lowest number collected, so that like whatever their number is, that's actually their lowest performing.
Yeah, they're
standard.
giving you the bottom of the curve rather than the top of the
peak
curve.
Of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think those are interesting things to be aware of, you know, when you're purchasing products, particularly as they pertain to performance. But just things to keep in mind. And again, like, man, I don't fucking, like a year ago, I didn't know what a candela was. You know, like I had no idea. Now everybody's a fucking expert, right, on candela.
Yeah, no,
right?
That's such a good point.
Lumens, candelas, like what? Like again, and a year ago, maybe I did know what candela was a year ago. Let's go back 2 years. 2 years ago, nobody fucking knew what candelas were.
Dude, like,
unless you were in the light industry.
I think this is like we can talk about a lot of shit with this, like, because you're right, dude. There were, I think a couple years ago, that's when people, one of many would be like Sage Dynamics. That's what that was like. Candela, I want more.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's never too much. Maybe that's for him personally, but I'll tell you right now, my handheld mod light is not for searching. It's for blinding somebody and disorienting somebody. And I have like a cell phone light and a backup like handheld in a bag. Yeah, you know what I mean? So for me personally, my own use, Candela, more Candela isn't always the best, but my point is like, yeah, last couple of years you have people collecting data like that, getting really nerdy with it. And they're just like more Candela, and they're making these videos that are like selling people on it. And I'm not going to lie. Like a big reason why I'm excited to talk about this is because I got duped a lot, dude, because I thought I did research, and that research was actually just like people being paid to say shit. So just because I researched doesn't mean I found like legitimate, like wholehearted, wholesome data. It was like people being paid off.
Yeah. And there's all different types of people entering the market, you know, and I mean that from a consumer perspective. And if you're an analytical buyer who's really studying the numbers, the data, and you're largely basing your decision of purchase based on those things, well, those things are fucking important. So where do you, for you, but how important are they really in the bigger scheme of things if you've never used one before? You've never had any practice with one. You've never had any hands-on application with any of it. Like you would never find that out. You would never know that without that experience. And if all you're looking at is data and basing your buying decisions based on that data, you may be disappointed. And by the way, that data equals in this particular case for that particular light that we're talking about is a very big price tag. I mean, you're talking one of the most expensive handheld lights. I mean, it's borderline.
I will say that
it's borderline out of control as far as I'm concerned. It's a fucking flashlight. But the point of this is you could spend a lot of money based on data and still be very, very unhappy. And there's other things that come along with it, like who is this company? Where are they coming from? Where is the shit manufactured? There's other things that
there's a lot to unpack here. Like I said, going back to the movie to start this off, let's talk about how maybe some people, like I personally as a company, am trying to do everything to like do product development. That's what I love to do. But I also do love the media stuff. Like I like making the videos with like Chris or Eli or whoever. I like doing that shit. I find that enjoyable. But ultimately that stuff is just supposed to get my product development videos out there so people know that
you're using that shit.
I'm the one that's developing this shit, right? But I have a healthy balance of development, business, and maybe I need to work a little bit more on business, and then media.
We all could, man.
Yeah. So I like
those are tough things to balance.
Yeah, I try to balance that, but I make sure the media never slips, right? And so the reason why I bring this up is because something like the John Wick movies, right? You could say John Wick, pretty much everybody knows what that is. There was a time period when I only had, like one Glock, and I was like, well, you know what, dude, like I really liked what I seen in this movie. I'm a fan of the franchise after 2 of them had been out. And I was like, I think I'm going to go to one of the brands in the movie and I'm going to have them build out a Glock for me. And it was 8-month lead times. Maybe get more fucking gunsmiths. I don't know. 8 months.
Yeah. That's a long time.
And you're asking thousands of dollars for work.
Right.
But at the time, I literally didn't know anything else other than I know this works well. I see plenty of videos. I've seen it in the movie.
Everybody seems to have one.
Yeah, like that's all I knew. Like me building some Frankenstein gun with really no background knowledge other than my first year of shooting, like that seemed like an easier buy to me, right? Like I was willing to fork out the cash, and like I'm not like some fucking multimillionaire yet,
Right.
So so my point in saying that is that like some of these companies I think have an issue with doing so much marketing and not actually fulfilling, their promises, like
it's unbalanced
through service or product quality.